You are watching Business Heroine TV for the entrepreneur who says she will and does. Join the Business Heroine community today at businessheroinemagazine.com. And now, tune into the show.
Welcome, I'm Ann Perry, founder of Business Heroine, and I am so excited to introduce you to our special guest today, Christina Morassi. Now, Christina is a personal brand expert who helps women entrepreneurs combine all of their gifts together into one lucrative business. So today, people are asking Christina how she built her business to nearly 7 figures in 3 years as a former, what she calls hippie healer, Burning Man girl. And Christina knows that it was on the strength of her unique personal brand that made this possible. So now Christina speaks on international stages, she hosts her own live events, and she coaches women in over 20 countries on how to find their ecstatic brand and attract high-paying clients. So welcome, Christina. Thank you so much for being with us today.
So exciting to be a part of this business heroine movement that you are creating, Anne. So I am delightfully honored to be here. Thank you.
All right. So your story is fascinating to me, and I can't wait for you to share it. So your background began in New York, working in fashion photography, and on high-end shoots with people like Heidi Klum and Britney Spears and other celebrities. Mm-hmm. And then you spent 10 years on the West Coast leading workshops in the healing arts. So these two career paths, seem totally different, but you've brought your passions together, and now you've created this ecstatic brand and business around all parts of you. So do tell us how this happened.
Well, it's great that you lay out my background, because I think in my story you can really see my body of work and what I help other people do. Because what happened was, when I first found my way into the business world, of course, the traditional thought is that you need to pick one thing, leave everything else out, because you need to choose your niche. What's your niche? Do you know what your niche is? Have you found your niche? And it sort of made me shudder, all of that, because I was like, pick one thing and leave everything else out? Like, that is just not going to work for me. I mean, it really felt like I was going to be amputating a limb of some kind. It felt very limiting, and I knew there must be another way. It was like, I knew I had all these gifts, but I couldn't quite figure out how they came together. And some intuitive part of me was like, I had 6 years working in that fashion photography world, which was an amazing experience in my 20s. And then I really let it go and barely picked up the camera for 8 years. And I was like, but there must have been a reason I did that. Like, how could it have been a haphazard thing that I was just supposed to chuck out the window? And so I sort of kept thinking of like, well, okay, I want to offer business, but what is it? Like, I haven't done photography in so long. Okay, I did 10 years as a healer, hippie healer, burning man girl, as I like to say, because that's really what I had been, and what I was stepping into the business world from was like living as a house sitter for 3.5 years in Los Angeles, making $600 a month, not caring very much about money, following my bliss, thinking money wasn't important. I mean, very much a stereotypical starving healing artist. And so now here I am in business going, what am I supposed to offer? I know there's something, but I don't know what it is. And I just was this broken record at first of like I said, I've got all these gifts, but I don't know how they come together. And I bet a lot of your listeners and readers can really understand that. So finally, with the help of the right mentor and the right program, I was like, all right, well, let's look at this. Like, as a healer, I know how to set up sacred space and really draw out someone's essence and get them into like their full expression. Well, now, what if I photograph them after that? And so I started a business bringing together all my gifts to create something that had never existed before, which was a transformational photographer. And so I started photographing women entrepreneurs to really capture the heart and soul of their brand, so that they would have these photos that were just completely lit up with the highest vibration possible, and they were in these beautiful clothes, and then these were the photos that would help them to attract high-paying clients. And so I did it. Like, I found a way to bring all of me into one business. And so I became known as the Heart Shot photographer, and my business took off quite quickly, and I made it to 6 figures in 15 months and multiple 6 figures in the second year. And, this, again, from $600 a month as a healer, know nothing about business. So, of course, people wanted to know, well, how did you do it? And I really think it was because I created a career that had never existed before. Like I created something unique, brought together my disparate gifts. And the other part was I really allowed myself to put all of my personality into my business. I had a very strong personal brand. It was a little wacky. I would roar and dance in business videos. So I stood out in the marketplace, and all of that together helped me to create a lucrative business around my ecstatic brand.
Wow. I mean, that's quite a story. So it was like taking your passions and talents for healing and helping people get into that place where they're just the energetic, vibrant being that they are, and then using photography to capture that so they can then attract clients. Yeah, I mean, that is not a career that exists. You totally made it up. I love it.
Yeah, and that's what I get to help other people do now these days, and it's really fun because I kind of like to break the rules in business, so I'm definitely getting to do that with all of my clients these days, and everyone's creating these unique businesses, and of course, when your business is unique, you stand out in the marketplace because it's pretty crowded out there right now, unfortunately, and there's a lot of white noise, so we do need to rise above that white noise and to stand out in the marketplace, and these are some ways to do that.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one of our biggest values at Business Heroine is authenticity, showing up authentically who you are. And I remember seeing one of your blog articles, and you said something like, you know, just a reminder to give yourself permission to be weird and wave your freak flag. And
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's so important because that's really where our life force and our personality is going to show up, right? I mean, business is all about relationships. And we need to keep increasing our know, like, and trust factor because when people feel like they know us, they're going to be more willing to invest with us. So if we let our weirdness totally come out, then our people will find us. And this, I think, is how to create a thriving business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and so just kind of speaking about that, you're touching on why it is important. It's like to stand out and to stand above the white noise. But why is it important for an entrepreneur to have a unique personal brand that embodies all of her? You know, that embodies her uniqueness and embodies different parts of her. Why? How is that to her? You know, advantage?
I have a couple different answers for that. Number one, if you put all of yourself into one business, there is nobody else on the planet who has had the same work experiences and the same life experiences as you. So just the very fact of owning all parts of you means that you will have no competition whatsoever. It's absolutely impossible. Right. So if anyone is ever feeling that like compare and despair place of like, well, I don't have anything better than all of that, well, put all of you into your business and own all of your gifts. So that absolutely helps you to stand out for sure. And then I know a lot of us heart-centered folks, like, you know, we want to create a thriving business, but I think there's a deeper why behind all of it. You know, we feel like we have a purpose on this planet. And so if that's the case, like, let's be firing on all pistons here. Like, we have so much to offer. Let's make sure all of it is in our business because I think that's going to help us to create more success.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty profound. So I love the piece. I just want to go back for a second to the no competition because I know myself, oh my gosh, I've totally struggled with that. Like, oh, somebody's already doing it, or I don't want to step on their toes, or they've already done it, so what makes me think I could do it too or should do it? And I don't know if that's a common thought that a lot of entrepreneurs have, but that was me for sure.
I mean, we all have it and continue to have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it can help. I mean, as an example, you know, as the heart shop photographer, I didn't really have a lot of competition because that was totally unique. And then when I started to step into the coaching aspects, you know, it was like, well, what is this called? And, you know, a year earlier, I had sort of had this download, and so I bought the URL of embodyyyourbrand.com, and I thought, okay, well, that works, embody your brand. But I had some interesting experiences where some people thought I was taking their words and things like that in the industry, and I wasn't because I'd been using it in my photography business for years. I own the URL. But, you know, embody your brand is a little bit, you know, it's in the collective. Like, people are using that phrase. But then when I got the support of a mentor to get to your ecstatic brand, because I have all this background, I've been dancing in the ecstatic dance community in Los Angeles for 13 years. Like, I'm all about all things being ecstatic. was like when your ecstatic brand came in, I knew no one else could ever give me any a hard time about the words, because I was like, there's no one else on the planet that is meant for. And when I shared it with people that I knew, they were like, oh my God, that is so you. So this is part of it too. It's an evolving process. We don't start out with the absolute most perfect brand. I had an evolution, but when I found it, it was like, it's like my little corner of plot of land on the planet. Like, no one else is using that languaging. No one else that I know is talking about bringing gifts together. And so that helps me. That really helps me to build the success of my business. So I want to support everyone else in doing that too.
Yeah. And it also seems it's like an extension of who you are as well. It's like, it fits you. It wouldn't fit somebody else. It's kind of like when you borrow your aunt's parka and you just feel awkward in public because it's not yours.
Absolutely. And then there's something too where we all have to really trust that our people are our people, because there are other people out there doing amazing branding work for sure. And there are going to be some people who are drawn to them, and then some people who are drawn to me. And I have to be okay with that and trust that this is an abundant universe. There is no lack, and that really there's enough people to go around for everyone. So if I keep showing up in my full self, my people will recognize me. Now, not everyone's going to get me in the slightest. They're not going to like the roaring and the dancing, and they're going to think it's a bit silly. But my people love it.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it, because I want to be this beacon for my brand, a living example, so that my people can find me.
Yeah, that's great. So let's get basic for just 1 second, because you are a branding expert. And what is a brand? Just basic, bare bones. What does it mean, branding?
That's such a great question, because in our industry, it's tossed. That's a word that's tossed around a lot, and it usually means many different things. So I know for me, whenever I'm trying to really understand something, I always think it's great to go back to the beginning and back to its origins, basically the etymology of the word. So this is what I teach my clients, is when you look up the word brand, it means to mark or indelibly impress upon.
Can you say that again?
To mark or indelibly impress upon. Now, if you think about it, the first time we maybe ever heard the word brand, it was probably a cattle prod into the side of a poor cow, right? Not the nicest version of the word brand, but you were marking or indelibly impressing upon certainly something in that instance. So along the way, then the big corporations started to take on this concept of brand, and what they meant was that it had to do with their colors, their logos, and that it really had to do with the experience that you had when you interacted with their product. So if you think of some of the big brands we all know, like Coca-Cola and Starbucks and Nike, very particular colors, very particular logos, and very particular experiences you have when you interact with their brand. Mm-hmm. And then somewhere along the way, probably in the last 10 years or so, this concept of the personal brand really came through. And that's where people started to take their personality and build a whole business around it. And every aspect of their personality infuses the business. Mm. So we can think of some strong personal brands that we know in our pop culture these days, like the Kim Kardashians and the Lady Gagas and the Oprahs. Like, love them or hate them, they are powerful businesswomen. And they all have very particular ways of wearing clothes, very particular ways of acting in the media, of how they run their business. And so now it's a personal brand, but basically it's this concept of like, how do you mark or indelibly impress upon your business, and therefore out into the universe to really share what you're about so that you become this beacon. So for me, I really like to work with the inner brand matching the outer brand, because I think that's the most important place to start from. And then later on, one can really look at their colors and their logos. But you got to know who you are and what you're bringing to the table first before you want to talk about those outer expressions of the brands.
Right, right. It's like, what's cool is it's like an extension of who you are, and taking who you are and amplifying it.
Yes.
And also, there's a little bit of getting to invent who you want to be. And I like what you're saying about how it's like matching what's inside to what's outside. But we all have so many facets of ourselves and maybe aspects of ourselves that we want to be stronger. It's like, going to the first day of high school, you kind of get to like, who do I want to be at school? And like, picking kind of like the parts of yourself that you want to express. And and
Well,
share
I
with
have
the world.
something to add to that, though,
Yeah.
if I may, because I have this theory that if you believe that you're here for a big mission on the planet, and I have a feeling most everyone watching or reading this does believe that, then there's and if you believe in a higher power, too, I respect everyone's belief systems, but if you believe in a God or a universe or spirit, I'll say it this way. God is no dummy. Like, if God has a mission for you on this planet, then every work experience you have had, every life experience has been preparing you for something. And I like to think of it as almost like our divine curriculum. It's our assignment that we're here for on the planet. So yes, we get to create who we want to be, but I also really believe that there's a seed inside of us of like what that's meant to look like. And it's an ultimate integration because so many of us have like certain aspects of our life over here and certain aspects of our life over here. And then there's our past that happened back there. For me, it's very much about bringing all of it into this ultimate integration place. So we are firing on all cylinders. And that, to me, is our ecstatic brand. And that's where we become these visionary leaders who can really create great change on the planet. So it's sort of like taking who we are, letting everything come together into one giant expression and really ratcheting us all up to 11 on the dial, our volume dial.
Yeah.
When the wind comes in.
Yeah, the wind comes in for that truth right there. It's like, yeah.
Change.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's great. So what are some of the big mistakes that women entrepreneurs make when they go about creating their brand? Or their personal brand?
Well, the biggest one I see is that they don't bring all of themselves into their business. And especially if they have a past history in a certain industry of some kind, and especially if it was a little traumatic. I see this a lot with the women who have had jobs in the corporate world. Mm-hmm. So they reached a point where it didn't feel good. They shut the door on it and left everything behind. And then they start again, sort of generally with something that's a little bit more heart-based. Maybe it's as a healer or a service-based industry. And they've shut the door on a rich expanse of experience that could be supporting them in this moment. Like, for instance, I had a client who created this amazing healing modality that was very unique, and it was a little bit out there. But when I started to talk to her, it turned out she had a PhD in business administration that she wasn't doing anything with in her current business. And I was like, a PhD? That is like how many years of education, and you're not using that now? Like, it just kind of doesn't even make much sense to me. So I often invite my clients to really like go back. Like, you don't have to go back and do what you did before, because I understand it was traumatic and it wasn't a match for you. But you need to go back, heal that, take the skills that you got from that time period, the good things, and really bring it right into your business now to see, like, it usually creates something totally much more unique in their current business. And then it again helps them to stand out, because what happens is so many people are like, I'm just going to start a business and I'm going to follow this mold and follow this blueprint and I'm going to be professional, so I'm taken seriously. And what happens is they all become very vanilla and a little bit bland and like everybody else out there. So no wonder it feels like there's so much competition. But instead, if you really bring all of it into this moment and like take that ownership piece too, and I mean, it's a deep process. I'm not going to lie. It's very alchemical. I've decided, in my background as a healer, I had some training in shamanic work. And so there's a beautiful exercise that they do in shamanic work called soul retrieval. Believing that, whenever we have a traumatic experience, we lose a part of our soul somewhere along the way. So I think I'm doing business as soul retrieval, helping people like pick up all their soul pieces so that they're whole and integral, and then being like the rock stars in business that they are meant to be. Yeah. So I just want to support people to be doing that inner work and to really bring all parts of themselves to the table so that, again, they're firing on all pistons.
I love it. And I can see how this really relates to purpose, because I loved what you said. What did you say? It's like a divine curriculum or something like that. I like that. Say more about that. I would love to hear your thoughts on business, as it's a vehicle for making money and making a living, but it's also this vehicle for doing so while you're living out your purpose and changing the world through your unique brand that no one else has. So share more about that.
I love that you bring that up because I wholeheartedly believe that. So remember, I'm a healer that didn't have business skills. I wasn't one of those entrepreneurs from the age of 4 selling like lemonade and Girl Scout cookies. I actually did not like business at all. But my spiritual path was very important to me, and, being a change agent was very important to me. And so when I finally understood that I needed to be responsible about being one of the ones in power with money so that I could be helping to really create great change, not like reaching 10 people a night in a padded room, for $35 each. It was like I needed to reach more people. So when I took on that responsibility and stepped into business, it was like, well, this is the way to do it. Like, I really do believe that it's the women entrepreneurs and the smart men too, but like it's through business and entrepreneurialism that I think we are actually meant to achieve these purposes on our planet. Because I believe, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, that like creating a successful business is like the best personal self-development program on the planet. I mean, it's the hardest spiritual work I've ever done to start my own business. So if anyone watching thinks that their spiritual path is super important to them, start a business because it presses every single button you could possibly have. And then, my background also is in polarity therapy, which is all about balancing energy and much more complex than that. And it involves the chakras. So for people who are familiar with the chakras, as spiritual and creative folks, we kind of like to live in the upper chakras. It's a little bit more comfortable there. But guess what? Business lives in the lower chakras. It's about survival, and it's about structures, and it's about being on the earth plane. And so if we truly want to live full out in this life that we have on this planet, we need to be inhabiting all the chakras. And so business is a perfect way to support us in getting into those lower chakras, to creating that self-sufficiency, generating like absolute abundance, being our own source of that, and being of service simultaneously. I mean, it's like, it hits everything perfect. And it's going to press all your buttons too, so you work through your shit as well. Totally. So it's really important. I think that business is the way for us to really be living out our purposes right now. And we can create mission-based businesses. Yeah. We are being of service, and it is the fullest expression of our soul as well. Like, that's what I'm all about, and that's what I help other people do, and it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you, and that was so well articulated. I remember years ago I came across something that said your vocation is connected to spirituality. And I was like, I didn't get it at the time. I was like, really? Huh? Your job and spirituality? I just thought it was like this concept. Someone thought it would just sound cool to say that. But now, like, I totally get that. It really is. It's like, yeah. And business and in this day and age, and entrepreneurship in particular, it's like so creative. It's just bringing our gifts to the world and putting it out there to serve and make a big difference and enjoy some abundance along the way.
Done and dusted.
So I'm just curious, like you said that you made $600 a month and you were not really interested in money, and then you decided you had a shift where you're like, I need to be one of the people with money so I can make a bigger impact. How does it feel to have money? How does it feel, just that total transformation?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a trip. I was talking about this recently with friends. Like, there are times where I still feel like the house sitter. Like we've probably heard celebrities being interviewed, and they're like, I don't feel any different. I was like, wow, I really do feel like that. And at the same time, it's amazing. Like, I don't know if I've like really sat down to be like, I did it. Holy shit, I did it. But it makes such a difference because even, I mentioned I was a house sitter for 3.5 years in Los Angeles. I was moving every couple of weeks. I wasn't making really hardly any money. Now I made a big life decision recently to go nomadic because I realized I didn't need to be in Los Angeles and I needed a fresh change. And so I'm going to be doing a few months at a time in different locations. So right now I'm in Hawaii on the Big Island in Kona. So you can see some of my glorious view off my deck that I'm absolutely in love with. I can see the ocean out there. Awesome. And so I'm like, this is very similar to being a house sitter, but I have money. Yeah. So it's a very different way of doing it. So that's one major lifestyle change. Another one too is that, at my live event that I had last year called Ecstatic Wealth, myself and my community raised enough $25,000 worth to sponsor a village in Africa for 5 years. to build a school, to provide fresh water, to provide medical supplies. Like, holy cow, if I hadn't done what it took to get to where I am now, to like work through all of my doubts and my meltdowns and my fears, to stand there on that stage to sort of inspire that, there's people around the world that would have been missing out. So the money that comes in, I get to now disseminate that in a really beautiful way, and to support other people to really be stepping into that abundant, ecstatic wealth, as I call it as well. So it does change a lot more freedom, a lot more, getting to be in my femininity. It's not like it's all perfect. I mean, I still do a ton of inner work. I'm not done.
Right.
And it creates a lot more opportunities and freedom for me, for sure.
That's so awesome. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's such a important, powerful message, especially for women, because we're givers and we like to make sure everyone else is taken care of. And so a lot of times that can manifest as women not allowing themselves to receive massive amounts of money or, wealth and abundance. But you're such a great example of how that is of service by receiving and allowing abundance into your life. It just, what you've done with it, and just allowing yourself to touch more people and to change lives and to create shelter for people who didn't have shelter. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing
one more piece around that too. It's just, if we're focused on how to pay our rent for the month, or like we can't pay our bills, we're so much of our energy is focused on that. We're not actually being of very good use to the planet in those moments. So I think, again, when truth comes in, my greatest desire when I work with my clients is to help them take the fastest route to making the money to get them out of survival, so that they can then start to focus on their mission. Because it's only when your survival needs are taken care of that you can begin to really be of use on the planet. So it's important that we all learn how to really open up that money channel for ourselves, and to do that in a way of being of service, so that we can stop wasting all our time worrying about money.
Yeah.
So
that's great. Well, everyone listening if you're stuck in a little bit of survival mode, Christina Morassi is the person to go to. She's got some amazing programs too that I want to ask about in a minute as well. Just the work you do is just so awesome and makes such a difference for the entrepreneurs who choose to work with you. So
thank you.
So actually, let's talk about that now. How can our business heroines work with you, and what can they expect as a result of going through your programs? And I know you have live events, and so tell us about it.
Yes. Well, if people are feeling drawn to this type of way of doing business, because for me it's a little bit different than the traditional models that I was out there learning. I mean, I wish this is what I had when I was starting out, because the way that I present business is very much in alignment with the energetic principles that I learned as a healer. So it's some of the same stuff you've heard, but it's organized in such a way that if you are sensitive, if you are creative, it's like, oh, that's why, okay, I can get on board with that now. So one of my, the first place that it's great for people to start is I have a virtual course called Find Your Ecstatic Brand. And it really leads people through my body of work in this process where, the first stage I always think is all about getting the confidence to come out of hiding. Because that's number one. I see so many people with so many visibility issues, and so they can learn business information till the cows come home, but if they're not ready to be out and be seen, they're not going to implement any of it. So first place I always work with my clients is getting the confidence to come out of hiding, and there's lots of ways to really access the strength to do that in the templates in this course. Then the next stage is really, how do you find your ecstatic brand? And so I guide people to really look at, what are all your work experiences and your strengths, and how do they blend together into this whole new, sort of jambalaya stew of who you are. So really gathering up your gifts so that you can blend them. And then the next stage is really looking at, now you know who you are and you're ready to come out and be seen. Now let's match that up with a need in the marketplace. It's a problem that your gifts help solve. And so there's templates and questions and questionnaires to really support you in getting the clarity in that. Because if people know that you solve a particular problem that they're suffering with, they'll whip out their credit card to work with you. And you want to really learn how to speak their language. So I help you find your portal problem, as I call it. And then the next step after that is how do we now that we know who you are and now we know how you're going to help people, let's create form around that. Let's create a package or your signature high-end program. Because for me, that's the fastest way to start to make money. If you're just starting out and you don't have a big list, if you start at a higher price point, you need less people to help get you out of survival. And it's also very powerful to be offering high-end signature programs. Like, you got to really step into your value to do that. And it's a great way to really formulate your specific body of work. I worked one-on-one for my first 2 years before I stepped into doing group programs, and it helped me to really create and craft my body of work. So those are the 4 stages that I really take people through. So what a person can expect is a ton of inner work and transformation. Like, usually people's minds get blown open a little bit of like, wow, okay, I got some stuff to work through. That usually comes up. But then also they really get to see, gosh, I am all that in a bag of chips. Like, there's a lot more going on than I realized. And they get really excited about how do all my gifts come together. And sometimes they come up against a little resistance choosing a portal problem. But I really created steps to sort of get people through the resistance. And then they created their signature high-end program that they can then bring out into the world. So amazing. That program is $9.97 or $19.97 or $29.97. 1 or 2 clients a month is going to help get you out of that survival place. Yeah. So it's a way to really take this big mission and this big vision and start to turn that grow it into a lucrative business.
I love that. That's awesome. It's perfect. I mean, and it's, you can really see your brand coming through because it isn't just going through these steps, which, you know, make great business sense. There's this shaman healing, you know, energy that comes through where people really get to have the self-discovery and and find out
really
they're the
one to me.
What's that?
That's really important to me, that there is because of my background as a healer, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't bring that part to my business, I'd be leaving something out.
Yeah.
Transformation, you know, I'm an alchemist, so I'm definitely like to create transformation for people, because if it's all just information through the head, you know, there isn't, you know, we do need content, obviously, to create a strong business, but at the same time, if it's all through the head channel, we're not going to change enough to become the person who has the successful business. Mm-hmm. So with my programs, it's not all through the head. It's sort of you learn and experience to the whole body.
That's awesome.
So I think that's a more accelerated learning pathway.
I agree, and so needed now. We just really need to remember our bodies, and they're powerful creating machines. So
absolutely,
yeah. So also, Christina, you mentioned that you had a special gift for the Business Heroines. So I'm so excited. So tell us what goodie we have. Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, this is a great place for everyone to get started. So the free gift I'd like to offer you is my video training, and they're quite in-depth videos about the 4 easy steps to take your brand from generic to Shazam, I like to say. So you can find out all about that on the page for Business Heroine, and you can click right on there and jump right in to get these video trainings. So I'll give you some of my best material to get you started, and then also if Find Your Ecstatic Brand feels appropriate for you, you can get some information that way as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so go to businessheroinemagazine.com, and all the information will be on there and the link so you can get your free gift and find out about creating your ecstatic brand. And tell us also real quick about your live event that you have. It's an annual event, right?
Yes. So my live events I love, because I feel like it's certainly a place where my genius gets to show up, and I love to hold space for everyone else's genius. So my live events happen once a year. They're a beautiful blend of like the nuts and bolts that you need to create your business, like niching and marketing and things like that, mixed with a lot of dance and a lot of like the expressive arts and even like deep ritual. Because again, I want people to leave utterly transformed and embody the information, not just kind of listen to it through their head. So it's not sitting for hours listening to things and like getting arthritis in your hand. It's a very full body experience. So absolutely, when you guys jump in for the free gift, you'll certainly be first to know about all of my live events coming up. And we'd love to have you there because there's nothing like the in-person experience.
Totally.
You know, it's like my shaman really gets to play to create like an alchemical vessel to make sure you guys get great pieces for your business. But that you also like flip your switch, as I like to call it, to step into that rock star part of you. Like, because these are some of the things I talk about as well, that I really believe those of us as these heart-centered entrepreneurs, that we are the new celebrities, I think. And we're here to use our star power for good. Like, if we got these big missions, we need to be comfortable being leaders and then being on the front page of everything. We need to reach people. We need to lead people. And so we need to be comfortable, like being very visible and stepping into this place of being a new celebrity. So these are all pieces that we play with at my live events.
That's great. Yeah, live events, I mean, they're transformational, and what you're doing, it just, you know, like you said, incorporating all of that and making it a space for true transformation. And you walk out with a network of supportive friends, really, friends in business.
Yes.
And
yes.
That's great. So awesome. So again, all of this information is going to be on businessheroinemagazine.com, so you can find out how you can work with Christina and how you can follow her. So can't wait to share your work more with our audience. So this will be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So before I let you go, can you give us one step, one nugget that, you know, an action that we can take starting today to begin creating our own ecstatic brand?
Yes, absolutely. So my favorite place for people to start is very simple, and it is to sit down, get a piece of paper out, get your pen ready, and to just start detailing out all of your work experiences. And like go way on back and just get it all down on paper. Now this may sound oversimplified, but you'd be surprised. Most of you have probably never seen it all written out. And the reason to do that is to look at like, what are all the different things that I did? And the next step to sort of take after that is to really look at the skills that you got from each of those work experiences as well. So first, making the list of the work experiences, and then sort of distilling it even more. You know, what were the skill sets that you got from all of those jobs? And then really like sit down with it to look at, am I using all of these in my current business? And if not, I wonder how I could. It's really great to get into that place of wonder, because you know, if you try and like figure something out, like there's not space for like you to get that divine download. I'll also recommend too that it's kind of hard for us to see the themes and the new possibilities because it's like right at the end of our nose. So I really recommend you can sit down with it first, but then get an outside eye to be like, what do you think? Like, what was I being prepared for? What was my divine curriculum preparing me for? Because for me, in hindsight, it's like it makes perfect sense about what I'm doing and the reason that I did all those jobs. But hindsight's 2020. Like, I had no idea. Like, I remember thinking, fashion, I can't go back to fashion photography the way it was. And, you know, it's kind of vapid and and then I'm this healer. But like, and so it was just, I sort of needed to almost I use the analogy of pickup sticks. You know, we played with that when we were kids. We had all these different sticks, and then you would just toss them up into the air, and then you would let them come down into this whole new pattern. And you gotta let yourself be surprised about what that new pattern is. So that's what I recommend. Gather up all your work experiences and your skill sets, like the pickup sticks, toss them up into the air, let them come down in a whole new pattern, and see if there's something you've never thought of before.
Love it.
It's worked wonders for me and for my clients as well. So I can't wait to hear what you guys discover.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm so glad we have our homework, and we can, share your insights in the Business Heroine group on Facebook, and definitely generate some conversation around this, and we can all discover our ecstatic brands together and just rock it. Yeah.
That's good to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Christina. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us and insights, and it's just been a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you. And I love what you're building. I can feel something just like bubbling up and like mobilizing. And there's something very deep and profound what you have set into motion. And it's like gathering steam. And I'm thrilled to get to participate, to be a benefit of it, and then also to support it as well. So thank you. It's been a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone watching and listening and reading too.
Yep. Yes, thank you. Okay, and this has been Business Heroine TV, Business Heroine Radio, depending on how you are consuming this interview. And we will see you next time.
Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
You have been watching Business Heroine TV for the entrepreneur who says she will and does. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out what's new at businessheroinemagazine.com today.